Time now for MediaWatch, and to my left, Emma James joins me. Good evening to you, Emma.
Hi there.
You've been looking at reaction to what the French authorities have described this morning as being a suspected terror attack.
Yes, absolutely. And it is one of those situations that really could have been so much worse. A man armed with what we now know were military machetes, so close to the world's most visited museum, the Louvre. Shortly after the attack, the first images started emerging online. This is a photograph that was taken by a Chinese tourist, appeared online. The aftermath of, obviously, that gentleman having been shot. We still don't know for certain his identity. We understand he is a 29-year-old Egyptian man who had been living in Dubai. Other people were tweeting images from both outside and inside the Louvre, showing that while there was clearly concern and panic at times, the security measures in place, these people were herded into locked rooms, secure places within the museum, and then told to sit on the floor and wait for the all clear. The other thing that people have been doing a lot of is tweeting to show their support for the armed forces. Now, this comes from the army themselves, this image with the hashtag proud of our soldiers. Force Sentinelle. Sentinelle is the operation that's been in place since the terror attacks of January 2015, when Charlie Hebdo was targeted, and then the kosher supermarket too. This basically has put soldiers on the streets of Paris for the last 2 years. Other people, though, seem to be a little bit sceptical about how much we should be praising soldiers for what is their day job. This gentleman says, have you ever seen a baker being thanked just for making bread? But if we take a look at the first reply that he gets, this person points out that a baker isn't risking their life when they make baguettes. Marine Le Pen was among those quick to politicise this attack, pledging her support to the military, saying that they are the front line against the threat and the barbarism of Islamists, even though at that point we had no idea who had carried out this attack. But there were, of course, reports from witnesses that he had shouted Allahu Akbar. Donald Trump, too, getting in on this very quickly, saying a new radical Islamic terrorist has just attacked the Louvre in Paris. Tourists were locked down. France on edge again. Get smart, US. However, other people have come to different conclusions, replying to Donald Trump, saying grasping at straws, mentally unstable person with a machete. Coward Trump gets scared. Healthcare, not military, is the answer. Now, of course, that person jumping to as many conclusions as Donald Trump. It may turn out to be true. It may not. We just don't know. France today was suicide by cop, says this Twitter user. No one attacks armed military with a machete to harm them. And one other thing that we learnt from François Molins' press conference a little earlier this evening, is that this happened on the date, exact same day as a very similar attack in the centre of Nice, which kind of got overshadowed, obviously, by what had happened just a couple of weeks before. A gentleman called Moussa Koulibaly injured 3 soldiers on the streets in the very centre of Nice, in a very similar attack using a machete. And there is obviously that question of, could this have been done to mark that anniversary?
Okay. Well, it's been 2 weeks exactly since Donald Trump was sworn in. We've already mentioned him once in your Media Watch segment, and we're mentioning him again now. Another headline-grabbing spat. This time he's taking on Arnie, the Terminator. Of all the people.
Exactly. He's clearly a brave man, or not, who knows. The new US Commander-in-Chief, as you say, been in office for just 2 weeks, but has picked lots of fights in that time. He's chosen the National Prayer Breakfast, which was happening at around this time yesterday, to try to really embarrass Arnold Schwarzenegger. Why? Well, because he can. But the governor actually struck back very quickly with a message on Twitter. Let's take a listen now to what the two men had to say.
We had tremendous success on The Apprentice, and when I ran for president, I had to leave the show. That's when I knew for sure I was doing it. And they hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And I want to just pray for Arnold, if we can, for those ratings, okay?
Hey, Donald, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV, because you're such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job. And then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
There you go. Arnie thinks he can have people sleeping comfortably in their beds if he were to take over. Now, obviously, Donald Trump couldn't just leave it at that. He had to come out with a retort. He tweeted again this morning, Arnold Schwarzenegger did a really bad job as governor of California, and even worse on The Apprentice, but at least he tried hard, he says. Lots of other Twitter users, though, in support of Arnie. Arnie's ratings might be a touch low, but they aren't lose the popular vote by 3 million low, points out Tony Poznansky. And elsewhere, this one doesn't really need too much explanation. That is clearly the Terminator in full force against Donald Trump. Now, if you are interested in the ratings aspect of this story, and some people might be, Salon is reporting on the fact that this might not all be down to Arnold Schwarzenegger being the host. They point out that this is an attempt to revive a series that hadn't aired for 2 years and that nobody had really missed, because it's been going for, I think this is now the 14th series, so people have got a bit tired. It's also up against some very popular programmes like The Bachelor, so it's not all about Arnie and it's not all about Donald Trump.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed for that. Emma James, have a great weekend.